feedback there. Next. The next thing we're really going to look at is asset utilization. And it's important to make sure assets are well utilized, and a big area that has a lot of focus is inventory reduction. There are a number of tools that are available within ERP systems to help you manage your inventory. You can create models to deal with long lead time items, seasonability, predictability of supply. So if suppliers aren't going to deliver on time, at least you know now, not 2 days before you're expecting to get the delivery, and be able to respond accordingly. What I've found is that historically, when people look at inventory and their inventory levels are too high, it's the result of inefficiencies in the operation. So just going and poking at the inventory folks and telling them to drive down their inventory levels isn't enough. You really have to be looking at all the processes around it that resulted in these high inventory levels. The next thing is looking at supply and demand relationships. So ERP systems provide you the ability to see out into the future. You don't have to be looking out 2 years, but you could have some items that have long lead times, and so you need to get messages now because it's coming across the pond. Other things, you got a 2 or 3 day lead time. So you can establish the rules within ERP systems to give you the messages that you need to respond to today to protect the business in the future. And that's one of the benefits. If we have a look at the reducing of inventory balances, the stress that puts on an organization is pretty incredible. In the old days, if you messed up, you had inventory to kind of make up for the sin. As you reduce your inventory levels or have a need to do that, you really do need to have tight integrated systems to be able to deal with the synchronization challenges. Without it, it gets very difficult. External supply chain integration. We see that ERP systems today come almost out of the box with pre-built connections to EDI or various types of external communication systems. And it allows you to plug into the supply chain to provide customers and vendors with ways to communicate with your business, making it very easy for them to do that and taking some of the cost out of doing business with you. The Nexus, the Nucleus guys, they talk about companies that reduce inventory levels by 50% just due to having greater visibility to the supply chain. Typically, though, you're probably going to see something more close to 10 or 15% in inventory reductions in this world. Add value. There seems to be a bit of a rush to push in the system without really rethinking what is it we should be doing. What will the customer pay for? Because if the customer doesn't pay for it, then we really should be thinking about not doing it. If there's a need to reduce or redeploy resources and people. So, we got to get people out of the clerical activity, filling out spreadsheets and doing all of that kind of activity that you see with different systems. This also will reduce the possibility for error, and it gives you an opportunity to redeploy these resources. They don't have to necessarily go out the door, but you can redeploy them, get them actually looking at the business and adding value, using their gray matter to think about things differently, focus on the business and not be focused on just straight clerical activities. This also will allow you to grow your business without having to necessarily add a lot of people. Next slide. So if I have a look at a report that was produced by the Aberdeen Group, one of the things that they talked about was some of the best-in-class implementations customers. We're seeing improvements like 21% in operating improvements, 17% reduction in inventory, a 9% reduction in operating improvements was still achieved by the people in the bottom 30%. So you don't have to be the superstar. You can still get huge benefits even if you're not the superstar in terms of execution. Next slide. So there are some challenges that come with implementing ERP systems. And one of those challenges is just making sure that the software is going to work for you. You know, having a look at, you know, what's out there, making sure it addresses your needs, having realistic expectations about what it's going to do. The software is a tool. A lot of the effort is really around the people in the processes and helping them use the tool effectively. Make sure that as you embark on these things that you take the time and benchmark what's going on in your operation today. Because if you're going to spend some money on these tools, you really would like to have some sense at the end of the day, did our business improve, yes or no? And establishing those metrics and then benchmarking them after is a good way to kind of go, yes, it worked, or no, it didn't, and learn from that. Executive support, it's incredibly important. Too often I see these systems go in and, you know, the executives are behind it day one, but then they disappear and they leave it to somebody to try and push in the software. They are very, very effective when you have executives part of the regular meetings. They're visible, encouraging people to get the job done and being supportive. Customizations. A lot of people are spending a lot of time recustomizing tools that, you know, 2,000 other companies are using. So think long and hard about customizing the software. I come back to this whole idea of allow yourself to re-engineer the business, to do it differently than you do today. Don't spend your money on customizing, but instead invest that money in training people and getting them to use the standard product in a more effective manner. Integration, beware. If you're going to take a highly tuned integrated system and you're going to plug that into an uncontrolled, process-challenged system, you're going to start to see bad data come into your highly tuned ERP system. You will spend a lot of time and money integrating into those systems, and if you can, just be very careful and cognizant of the effort to integrate. It's often underestimated when you go forward. You know, a couple more points here on this slide, just talking about having a lack of ERP implementation expertise. If you do this for a living, implementing ERP systems, hopefully you get better at it. You know, in a prior life, you know, I might have had one ERP system to implement for a company, and there's some value in having someone who has done it a number of times and can provide some sage advice on, oh yeah, if you do this, then these are the repercussions. Do you really want to do that? You know, and then being able to kind of make that decision with some wise counsel. Last thing here is change management is often everybody looks at it and goes, yes, we have a change management program, we acknowledge it, but then they really don't execute and manage the change in the organization. These tools implement incredible change, and without a proper change management strategy going forward, training, it undermines your success. So next slide. The last thing I just want to kind of leave you with is a quote from the Aberdeen Group, and they're talking about those companies that have, you know, postponed or delayed the implementation of an ERP often underperform even the worst performers of those who have an ERP system. So you don't need to be huge. ERPs will help your business, and just need to kind of be aware of some of the traps along the way. And with that, it's Corey, back to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Frank. So I'll run through a few of the key project goals that ZCL had when moving through our implementation project. As you'll notice, many of the goals that are here are not unlike those of any manufacturing company that would be pursuing an ERP. Several of ours, though, were driven by the fact that ZCL did acquire our major competitor, Xerxes Corporation, in February of 2007. So I'll go through the bullets here by trying to elaborate a little bit on the reasons why these were some of the key goals that we had. Of course, standardization across our organization was key. We were running different systems across the borders, different charts of accounts, reporting structures, and clearly that was causing us many difficulties when it came to reporting by site or division. The streamlining of order processing. We had no real-time view of inventory balances in that the monthly inventory counts were used to record inventory consumption, so we didn't know where we were at during the month, just at the end. Production planning was done entirely outside the system using either spreadsheets or some sort of whiteboard process, whatever it might be. So making our planning process very, very cumbersome and certainly not available to people around the organization. Accurate and timely job costing was a key one that we were looking for when we went to Dynamics AX. Right at the time, we were using a manual time card system, so the ability to accurately and quickly report production employee time spent on jobs, whether that be work order jobs or project jobs, was very slow because of the manual data entry required. Actually that was only available in the US at the time because they were running a legacy system. In Canada, really, we didn't have that at all when it came to the reporting against jobs. There was no view of product costing because all of the costs were collected at the month end and evaluated based on the entire number of tanks produced in a month. So we had an inability to see what one specific tank cost in comparison to our standard cost that we presumed that tank should take. And finally, project costing was done outside the system wholly, so Excel spreadsheets, etc. Performance monitoring was another key one that we looked at, and the ability to be able to look at what our production employees are doing on a virtually real-time basis was very important. So how much time are they spent doing direct activities versus indirect, so cleaning or maintenance or whatever that might be. It also allows us to do a great deal of exception reporting on employee time, for example, absences, overtime, etc. And finally, the month-end close and consolidation process. Of course, because we were running multiple systems, the effort and time required to extract and consolidate that financial information to produce one consolidated look for the organization was very difficult. And that was compounded by the fact that we also, because of the way that time was tracked via the manual time cards, the processing of payroll information for those hourly workers was very difficult.